Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rav Eliezer Melamed Shlit. We are getting close to the end of our section here in the study of Amiras Emes, and perhaps appropriate during these Aseres Yemei Tshuva when we say the Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim several times a day now in Slichos. Kal Racham v'Chanun Erech Apayim Rav Chesed ve'Emes. Interesting discussion about why emes is there, but that's for another time. But the next chapter is Lemanias Busha. Li'itim mutal adam l'shanos min ha'emes k'dei lemno me'atzma busha. Sometimes you can change the truth or alter the truth to prevent yourself from being embarrassed. Lemad shemutal l'shanos masechta. We saw yesterday that when it comes to learning, upirish Rashi shemutal lam latznias yidiyosav mishum anava, that Rashi explained in the Gemara that if one wants to not be a braggart, and one doesn't want to show off how much he knows, then you could say, I don't really know as much. But the Rambam explains that Gemara differently. If someone asks you, are you learning Masechah Shabbos? Are you learning Tractate Shabbos now? And let's say somebody says, you're learning the Gemara in Shabbos, and you're worried that they're going to start asking you questions on it or halachic questions, and you don't know how to answer them, then you could say that you're learning a different Maseches. So this is a Rambam in Hilchos Gezela of all places, Perek Yudalet Halacha Yud Gimel. So if someone asks you, you're learning a certain tractate, and you're worried that you're not going to be able to answer the questions, and they're relying on you, you could say, no, I'm not learning that right now. Just as an aside, it reminds me that my father, Zechrona Livracha, very late in his life, he took upon himself to learn Daf Hayomi. So you're talking about starting in his 70s, and he did not come from a Jewish educational background, but thank God because of Art Scroll and translations and interpretations, so he, in his lifetime, went through Shas twice, which is really something incredible in and of itself. As a matter of fact, Art Scroll actually wrote a little story about him, and I have a copy of it if anybody would like to see. But I always remember when I would come home from yeshiva, and my father was learning something like Erechin, and he would call me into his study. He would say, could you answer this question for me? And he didn't understand that I don't know Erechin from the whole of my head. What do I know about Erechin? But it was always funny that this kind of idea of, do you know the questions? Do you know how to interpret it? And there it was honest. I wasn't lying. I really didn't know because I wasn't learning Erechin. Who learned Erechin in yeshiva? But I was just reminded when I see this halacha. Back to the text. לבדיקה שהוא מסבייש בה, כמו למשל בדיקת פריוס, ומישהו שואל לשם מה אתה נוסע, מותר לו להסתיר מטרת נסיעות המדייקס. This is also perhaps a common thing. A person says they're going to the hospital, going to the doctor, and they're going for a very serious exam, something which they're not ready to disclose to others. Very worried about it. Someone says, why are you going to the doctor? What test are you having? So you could change the truth and say, I'm just going for a checkup. Not that I'm going for a PET scan. Whatever it might be, just l'moshel, if you can understand that example. V'chol mikre, kasav al Sefer Chasidim, and in any event, the Sefer Chasidim writes, she'adiv tamid shelo lomer mamish davar sheker el linkot b'lashon shemishtama'ad l'shtei panim. We don't want to outright lie, but sometimes if you can perhaps give an answer that will let the recipient know that maybe there's another way of understanding it. I'm going for a different test, or to be vague. We have to go back to the central point that the only time that you can change the truth is if where it will not cause harm to others. Busha, utsar lemishu acher, harm, embarrassment, pain to anyone else. So if you have two partners, so partners, when they're talking about their business, they have to speak truth. And even if one partner made a mistake, and he's embarrassed to tell his partner about the mistake, he has to speak the entire truth, because obviously it applies to him, they're partners. He has to know about the business and how it's going to affect him, good or bad. And if he's going to lie about it, he'll cause damage to his partner, and he'll violate a Torah prohibition. V'rakim barlo she misaper al ta'uso she lo kol kach kritit. Yigrim adavar la'afaras hashalom b'neihem, u'mach mazeh ha'esek shalom alo linazek, v'ashitav shelo yafsid davka me'etzem amiras ha'emes. Unless you know that it's very clear to you that if you spill the beans and you speak your mistake, and it's not such a critical mistake, it's not going to big picture going to harm anything, but you know that it will cause a rift between the partners, and perhaps the entire entity could dissolve because of maybe a lack of trust or something like that, and his partner will actually lose if he tells the truth. That's a different story. So there, in that evaluation and that estimation, the partner can perhaps alter the truth a little bit. Certainly, a student, a yeshiva bacher, someone who is learning cannot lie to his instructor, to his teacher. The entire leniency that you can lie to prevent embarrassment, this is where there's no, we call it kesher mechayev, sort of an instructor ability, an influence one over the other. But a teacher has to know the behavior of a student. There's responsibility, there is a level of accountability there. Because you're trying to instruct the child how to learn. So if the teacher asks, did you review the lesson? Did you prepare for the test? Did you study? Did you read the book? Etc., etc., he has to speak truthfully. It's perhaps one instance where we can be lenient is if the teacher asks in front of the whole class and he's worried about being embarrassed in front of the whole class. He could give a vague answer, but afterwards he has to tell the teacher privately that indeed he did not perform the lesson or something like that. And same thing goes for a soldier in the army. Speaking about the Israeli army, anything that has to do with his service, with whatever expertise he is dealing with, he has to speak the truth. And because of embarrassment, there is no permissibility, there is no leniency to change your answer, to change your truth. Because if you don't speak the truth, because of course this is something that can affect the greater outcome of the army, the safety of Israel, etc., etc. So they're speaking the truth, even if it's going to be embarrassing, even if it's going to be detrimental, must be spoken because we're thinking of the greater good. And I love that he quotes from a sefer here called Hatzavaka Halacha, the army according to Halacha. It's in Perek Chav Tes. But in any event, we see that we are required to speak the truth when it won't hurt others, even though there are times that it can alter. In any event, we will, Meretz Hashem, continue next time. Thank you so much for listening. Brings us over 5,000 downloads. Baruch Hashem. Let's keep it going. Have a great day, everyone.